Although George Russell wouldn't be at all surprised if Max Verstappen took a year off in 2026 to assess the teams and their new power units, he isn't against the Dutchman joining him at Mercedes. Despite Verstappen's long-term contract with Red Bull, which expires at the end of the 2028 campaign, rumours persist that he might not stay for the entire time. Is it possible for Max Verstappen to take a break in 2026? Verstappen, who is linked to Mercedes and has been made publicly attractive by Toto Wolff, is apparently considering his options, not for 2025, but for 2026. In 2 years, Formula One will transition to entirely sustainable fuels and increased electrical power, bringing new engine technology to the racetrack along with updated cars. The last time new engines were introduced in Formula One was in 2014, when Mercedes overtook Red Bull's then Renault engine to terminate the Milton Keynes team's 4-year championship run. Russell believes Verstappen should take a year off from racing and watch how that lottery turns out, rather than switching to Mercedes in 2026, but only time will tell if history repeats itself. "I wouldn't shy away from jumping alongside Max," Russell told the Daily Mail. "Nor would I shy away from him jumping in with us. I had the biggest challenge of joining Mercedes against the greatest driver of all time statistically, in qualifying and in the race, and I performed against him, and that's all I can do. Max can take a year off for 2026 and see which the best team is. I wouldn't be at all surprised if he did that. Remember, 2026 is a lottery, so you truly don't know what will transpire." Regarding his own plans, Russell has stated that he wants to win a world championship, ideally with Mercedes. "I am a loyal guy and Mercedes have given me the opportunity, but I want to be a world champion. That's not us at the moment," he said. "But a year ago, McLaren were the slowest team and now they are the quickest." Verstappen, meanwhile, recently responded as follows when the Guardian newspaper questioned him about his future. "It would be amazing to finish my career here at Red Bull. All the years staying basically at one team would be incredible." He added, "I am quite a loyal person and it is something that means a lot to me. That is what I request from the team, and so far that has always been great, and that is what I want to keep for a long time." But what Russell doesn't know is that the Dutch driver would choose his Red Bull colleague, Sergio Perez, over him at any time. Due to the fact that Max Verstappen's Red Bull wage strains the budget, Sergio Perez is extremely valuable in light of rumours of a potential new contract. This is the assertion made by Ralf Schumacher, who has determined that Perez's sponsorship revenue is a vital component of Red Bull's operating budget. Perez began his career with Red Bull in 2021 and has since contributed to 2 constructors' titles, with Red Bull aiming for a 3rd in Formula One in 2024. Additionally, it has been widely speculated that Perez, a Mexican racer who hasn't finished on the podium since the Chinese Grand Prix, will be getting a contract extension from Red Bull. However, Schumacher asserts that Perez's financial contribution is equally significant, as it enables Red Bull to maintain its budget while having to pay the $70 million salary of 3-time world champion Verstappen. Formel1.de was contacted by Schumacher and said, "You shouldn't forget, as long as Max Verstappen stays, that's what I've heard at least once, the budget limits are relatively tight at Red Bull, and Perez brings money." Perez boasts sponsorship partnerships with companies including KitKat, Disney, Nescafé, Telcel, Mobil, and Claro. But Red Bull team principal Christian Horner acknowledged that they need Perez to pick it up in the face of more formidable competition after a P8 at Imola and an opening lap collision with the Haas drivers in Monaco after a Q1 elimination. Lando Norris of McLaren won his maiden Formula One race in Miami, and Charles Leclerc of Ferrari won in Monaco, where Ferrari reduced Red Bull's lead in the Constructors' Championship to just 24 points. Russell is also relieved that Hamilton has decided to leave at this time, saying that his feelings would have been very different had Hamilton left after the contentious outcome of his title matchup with Red Bull's Max Verstappen in 2021. "It's a fresh start for the team," Russell told the Daily Mail. "So many people here have shared success with Lewis, but change often ignites a new spark for everyone. It does that for Lewis, and it sparks that for us here next year. It is good that Lewis is leaving us now, rather in 2021, when it would have been difficult for the whole team." After that season ended, Mercedes has been left trying to figure out how to rival Red Bull for the championship in the new ground effect era of Formula One, which started in 2022. Russell thinks Mercedes overshot with the W15 in trying to fix the problems of its predecessors, but he has total faith in the team under technical director James Allison, even though Mercedes is still waiting for their first podium of the F1 2024 campaign. When you look at the data and you correlate it with how it feels, you understand why last year wasn't good, and nor was the year before, said Russell. It was all at the rear and is now all at the front. The problem is that the changes we made were too much. It was in the right direction, but we carried on going and overshot. It shows there is always a compromise. We have a great team and have other great people joining, and we have James back at the helm and he's letting nothing slide. There's clear leadership. The car is definitely more balanced through the lap now, Russell told media at the Monaco Grand Prix. We were struggling a lot at the start of the year, balancing the high to low speed corners, and I think we have made progress. When you look at the gap to Red Bull, when you look at the gap to the rest of the midfield, we have moved forward. But I do think it's fair to say Ferrari and McLaren have moved forward at the same rate. So we need to keep on working, bringing those upgrades to the car, and the whole team are working flat out right now to bring those upgrades as quick as possible. The media reported prior of the Monaco Grand Prix that Carlos Sainz is no longer being considered, at least for the time being, for the F1 2025 position. So the great Russell rebirth of 2024 has coincided with an important moment in Mercedes' quest for Hamilton's replacement. Instead, it's said that Mercedes is monitoring Max Verstappen's circumstances at Red Bull and is ready to push the 17-year-old Italian wonder Andrea Kimi Antonelli as early as the next season, in the event that the current world champion is out of reach. However, where precisely would that leave Russell, who is out of contract at the end of 2025, a year from now, given Wolff's unwavering determination to sign Verstappen as soon as possible and his conviction in Antonelli's long-term potential? 2 into 3 is not feasible. But keep in mind how Russell was portrayed as the face of Mercedes' long-term future and the person who would eventually take over for Lewis when he was promoted from Williams at the end of 2021. Has he taken any action in the past few years to convince the team otherwise? Given the circumstances, Wolff really could not have asked for much more from Russell, whose appointment coincided with Mercedes' decline from grace. Wolff must be overcome by the temptation to make a statement signing, to let Red Bull, Ferrari and McLaren know that his team is still dangerous and armed after 2.5 dismal years. However, it's possible that Mercedes already has everything they need for 2025 and beyond, provided they can finally get the car fixed. Who will replace Hamilton? 3 years prior, Mercedes had already located him. That one is George Russell. So, what do you think? Will Russell and Max Verstappen be teammates in the near future? Let us know in the comments down below.